Welcome back to the Sports News Analysis YouTube page where I'm previewing every game here of Week 15 in the NFL. So be sure to subscribe to my page. Hit me up on Twitter at SNewsAnalysis. That's at SNewsAnalysis. Well, in this game, something's got to give when the Arizona Cardinals host the Detroit Lions. Lions come in with a record of 4-9, having lost 5 games in a row, while the Cardinals come in with a record of 4-9 as well, having lost 9 games in a row. So something has to give here. As far as the Lions go, the Lions have lost their last 5 games. 4 of those 5 losses, the most recent of those losses, have come against 4 playoff teams, twice to the Packers, once to the Texans, and obviously the one 2 weeks ago versus the Colts. So all those games they've been within 7 points. So they haven't been getting blown out. It's more of a case of them sort of finding ways to lose games here. And maybe in looking back on it, we expect a little bit too much from the Lions coming into the season. Being just 10-6 last year, they've definitely taken a step back this year. To their credit, though, I thought maybe they were the kind of team that when they started losing and things started really going south, you would get less of an effort out of them. And, I have to do sort of an about face and admit that, they're putting forth a better effort week in and week out than we expected. And we see no reason why now that shouldn't continue this week rather, and obviously going forward here the last 2 games of the season. So Detroit obviously still has a high-powered offense. If you look in these last 5 games they've played or they've lost, they've put points on the board. So that's not really their problem. They've made some big turnovers maybe on offense and things like that. But as far as pure yardage and points, that's been there from the Lions. Obviously, they have their great connection of Matthew Stafford to Calvin Johnson. Their running game isn't where they would like it to be, I don't think. I think if you see them improve anything in the offseason, it'll be that running game. They kind of have like 3 or 4 pretty good backs. Do they think Mikel LaShore is going to be the back of the future? If they don't, then they need to go find another one. It all depends internally what their feelings on LaShore are. I think there'll be backs out there maybe through the draft or through free agency that may be a little bit of an upgrade from him. And they could also use some improving on the offensive line as well. And we'll see how that kind of plays out here the last couple of weeks. Their defense in my eyes, that whole front 4 or defensive line is right now, I'm sorry, I have to say they're a little bit overrated. Sue has been playing better in recent weeks, but he wasn't there when the games really mattered. Avril's been playing well. He's probably the only one that is going to earn some pretty good money here in the offseason going forward. But this defense just continues to underwhelm, continues to allow drives in big spots. I mean, can you ever remember a time where the Lions, when they needed a stop against an average to good team, when they've gotten that stop when they've needed to? I haven't. I haven't seen it. And until they develop that on defense, they don't have to be great. Their offense is good enough to score points, but they at least have to make it where, one, they give their offense a little bit of a break, and second, that at least when they need these big stops late in games, they can get them. I look at the Patriots. They're not a great defense, but it seems like whenever they need to get the big turnover or they need to get the big stop on defense to help their offense just a little bit, they get it. And you don't seem to get that with the Lions. But good news here is coming into this game is their opponent isn't that great. So I think a lot of those things that their defense kind of suffers from will not rear its ugly head this week. As far as the Cardinals go, look, the Cardinals are the Cardinals the last couple weeks. They were competitive in games up until the last 2 weeks. I shouldn't say competitive. They looked pretty good as a team. They didn't look dreadful until the last 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks is sort of when everything fell off a cliff. They lost a game 7-6 to the Jets 2 weeks ago, which was a terrible game from both teams' perspectives. And obviously then the loss last week, 58-0, to the Seahawks, in which they were completely embarrassed. Their coach, Ken Wisenhunt, apologized in the press conference. The first thing he said, he apologized to his fans. He apologized to the owner. probably something he maybe had to do or thought he had to do to save his job. Because you start losing, 58-0. You start, having showings like this multiple weeks in a row, and that's what gets you fired, quite frankly. So I thought it was good by Wisenhunt to do that, but look, they need to improve him. They've looked absolutely dreadful. And, that game against the Jets when Ryan Lindley played, you heard everyone say, why did they keep Lindley in the game? Why wouldn't they put Skelton in? Well, maybe you saw why last week. They started Skelton, and Skelton was so bad he put in Lindley. So this team is just an absolute mess right now. Does it really matter who they start at quarterback? Whether it's Skelton or Lindley at this point? What we do know is that in the offseason, the Cardinals will be one of those teams that will really be in the market for a starting quarterback. Because if you look at them, they obviously have good receivers with Fitzgerald, Roberts, and Floyd. Okay? They have serviceable running backs with Wells, Howling, okay, from that perspective. Their defense is pretty good, and I think that's been lost in all of this because they've been so bad. But remember when they started 4-0 and their defense was sort of the talk of the league almost? They still have the same personnel. It's just their offense is putting them in such bad spots that they can't help but look mediocre to average. So I think you'll see them pick up a quarterback in the offseason and kind of regroup here and be a little bit better than people think next year. But first things first, they have to finish out this season. And, I see no reason why I should be optimistic they're going to be able to turn it around this week, quite frankly. Detroit comes into this game -6 on the road here against the Cardinals. And I like Detroit to sort of take out all the frustrations of the past 5 weeks, all the close losses. I look for them to take it out on the Cardinals at home. I look for the Cardinals to maybe play harder this week from what happened the last 2 weeks. But to be honest, I don't know if it's really going to make a difference. They're just awful at the quarterback spot, and in this league, that's going to kill you. So I like the Lions -6 on the road versus Arizona. And be sure to check out my other previews at S News Analysis and right here on YouTube. Thank you.